All right, everybody, let's get started with today's special program. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, and welcome into the SECU Daily Planet Theater. My name is Chris Smith, and I'll be your host for Dino Dig Live. This is a special opportunity that we have where you can meet, chat with, and hear about some exciting dinosaur work that's happening here at the museum. Well, I say it's happening here at the museum. It's happening because it's affiliated with the museum. The work today is actually happening in the middle somewhere of Utah, where our dinosaur experts are actively working in the field to uncover and discover dinosaurs, finding new fossils, exploring their dinosaur quarries, and helping us to learn more about the way the world used to be. Welcome to the program. As part of today's program, everybody, we're going to be hearing from the museum's head of paleontology, Dr. Lindsay Zano. Dr. Zano is the person in charge of all of the paleontology that happens here at the Museum of Natural Sciences. And Dr. Zano joins me now. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Chris. Hi, everyone.
Everybody, on the count of three, say, hi, Dr. Zano. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Dr. Zano.
I hope you could hear them. There's a great crowd here inside the theater ready to hear all about what you've got going on and where you're at, actually. This landscape looks incredible. Lindsay, tell us what's going on.
Well, we're coming to you from basically the middle of nowhere. This is the San Rafael Swell in central Utah. And you can drive for 100 miles in this direction and hit absolutely nothing. So it's a really remote, beautiful landscape out here in central Utah. And behind me is our base camp. So I thought it'd be fun to show you what camp life looks like out here when we set up. We're out here for about 2 months. So this is our base camp for the next couple months.
That is quite a place to go camping. How long will you be out there at this site, Lindsay?
Well, right now we have opened 2 quarries, basically 2 halves of one bone bed. And this is a bone bed that we're pretty excited about because we've been uncovering lots of isolated theropod material from this bone bed. So theropods are the group of dinosaurs that walk on 2 legs and have feathers, and birds are part of the theropod group. It also includes things like Tyrannosaurus rex and Velociraptor, lots of really cool familiar dinosaurs. The theropods from this area, only a couple of them are known, and a lot of them are still mysterious new species, so we're really hoping that we get new bones from some of these new theropod dinosaurs showing up in these quarries.
So you said you've got 2 pits that you're working on, and you think they're full of theropods. What's been something exciting that you've pulled out of the ground so far or uncovered?
Well, that's the thing about paleontology, Chris. It's not like it is in the movies. What we had to do was spend about 10 days picking and shoveling and jackhammering to take all of the really hard rock that's on top of the bone layer off so that we can begin to quarry the bone layer. So it's only been a day and a half that we've actually been sitting in the quarry digging. The rest of the time, the entire crew has been picking, shoveling, and jackhammering our way through all the overburden that's sitting on top of that bone layer. But yesterday was a great day. We actually uncovered the pelvis, hind limb, and foot of not a theropod, but one of the plant eaters that lived here at this time, called, we think it's an Eolambia specimen. So this is a primitive duckbill dinosaur, if you know things like Edmontosaurus or Parasaurolophus, these big, glorious, smart duckbill dinosaurs that they're basically the cows of the Cretaceous. They make up most of the herbivores across the landscape at this time. So we have a really nice skeleton that's already turning up of one of those in one of these dig pits.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredible. That's really special. Tell it, how did you find this to begin with? There's also a question on YouTube, like, how did you find these bone beds originally?
Yeah, so, I mean, finding bones, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of skill and a lot of luck. But basically, there's no high-tech way to find dinosaurs. There are high-tech ways, but they're just too impractical for us. So what we end up doing when we want to find dinosaur skeletons or other fossils is we walk around in an area where we know there are fossils preserved in the ground that are the right age that we want to study, and we look for fossils that are eroding out of the hillside. And I found this site, I found maybe a centimeter square fragment of theropod limb bone, which is a really thin layer of bone because theropod limb bones are very hollow. So you can kind of tell when you have a little bit of a theropod bone. And I found this tiny fragment. I got a little bit excited about that, and then I spent like 20 minutes sort of wandering around looking for where this fragment might have come from, and stumbled upon just a little bit of bone sticking out of the hill. This was in 2021, I think. And so then what we do is we just start digging in, kind of clearing a small test pit, see is this really where the bone is coming from, and if so, is there more bone here? Is it worth spending 10 days picking and shoveling the layer above to get to it? How good is it going to be? And that's how we find dinosaurs, is we just walk around and use our eyes and our experience to locate where they're coming out of the ground.
That fascinates me. It sounds like finding needles in haystacks. It's got to be very nearly impossible, but I guess the bone looks a lot different than the surrounding rock and dirt, so it stands out easily, or is it actually pretty hard for you?
Well, it's really, really dependent on where you are. So this area, we call it the mustn't touch it. That's the name of the rock layers that we find these dinosaur bones in. And these rock layers, they're badlands, so they're just rock. There aren't plants or trees or grass or anything growing on them. They're nice and smooth and barren. And the rock is gray, but the bone is black. So finding bone in the mustn't touch it is actually pretty easy because it stands out quite a bit from the rock surface. Just a week ago, I was down in a southern part of Utah called Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, and we were hunting in a different set of rocks called the Straight Cliffs Formation. And in the Straight Cliffs Formation, the rock is very poorly exposed, so you're prospecting through the woods with, shrubs and trees scratching everywhere and pine needles all covering the ground. And the ground is just littered with stones and sandstone bits and cobbles. And the bone is almost identical in color to all of those rocks. So finding bone in the Straight Cliffs is so, so, so difficult. Even though we know it's there, it's really, really hard to spot with your eyes.
Fascinating stuff. Very interesting. So I'll want to remind everybody who's watching here in the Daily Planet Theater or online, in just a moment, we're going to see if you have questions for Dr. Zano. And if you do and you're here in the theater with me in downtown Raleigh, all you have to do is wave at me. If you're on the first floor, I'll invite you up onto the stage, and you can use the microphone to talk to Dr. Zano directly yourself. If you're up on the second floor, then one of my colleagues, Matt, has a microphone. So just wave at us, and then Matt will take you a microphone, or you can go to him. That way everybody has the cool opportunity to talk directly with the museum's head of paleontology, Dr. Lindsay Zano, who right now is digging up dinosaurs in Utah. Well, I guess not right now. We've kind of given you a little bit of a break, I suppose. How long are the work days in Utah, Lindsay? How long does it take to dig up a dinosaur? Well, all right, so it looks like, let's check real quick. So we lost Dr. Zano. Okay. Dr. Zano is in the middle of the desert in Utah on a cell phone connecting. There's apparently not Wi-Fi in the middle of the desert. The trees and the cactus don't put off Wi-Fi signal. But we'll get Dr. Zano back in just a moment because we've got somebody who can get in touch with her really quickly, I believe. Let her know to join the call. So we'll get Dr. Zano back real quick. While we're waiting, does anybody have questions about paleontology, becoming a paleontologist, working in the desert? Because we want to go ahead and let's get the questions stacked up for Dr. Zano. That way when we get her back, we can just have questions lined up and ready to go. Anybody in here particularly fond of dinosaurs? Anybody favorite animals or dinosaurs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe there's a couple. Okay, good. I kind of figured if you're here to hear paleontologists talk about dinosaurs. Now, who has a favorite dinosaur? Like would say, I absolutely have a number one. Right there in the third row, what's yours? The Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh my gosh. Okay, clap your hands if T-Rex is your favorite dinosaur. Let me hear it for T-Rex. Okay, I got 2 T-Rex fans. What about down here on the front row? What's your favorite dinosaur in the Jurassic Park t-shirt and the dinosaur socks? Right there, what's your favorite dinosaur? Say it really loud so I can hear you. I'm a long way away. Gigantosaurus? Dr. Zano, are you familiar with a Gigantosaurus?
Yep, Giganotosaurus. That's a pretty cool dinosaur.
Oh wait, you said it differently. What's the proper scientific professional paleontology way to say it?
Giganotosaurus. But the thing is about dinosaur names is there's lots of cool ways to say them, and they're all fine. And say them however you want to say them. Many of us say dinosaur names differently, especially in different countries and things. So that's fine too.
Oh well, that is very good to know. We can say it lots of different ways. Glad you made it back, Lindsay. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's heating up out here, Chris. So I had to. My phone overheated. So it's been extremely hot in Utah. When I was there, just the first week of June in southern Utah, it was over 100 degrees already. So one of the things we struggle with out here is the extreme heat, and so I think we've got some shade. We should be good for a little while.
Okay, great. Yes, try to stay cool out there, or at least keep your phone cool so we can. Fantastic. You said it's more than 100 degrees out there. Give us an idea of what it's like to work in the field, to be out in nature looking for dinosaurs.
Well, it's a pretty rugged area. You know, we have to bring all of our food, our water, all of our supplies out here. So we usually fill about 250 gallons of water in giant water bladders. We bring those to camp, and that lasts, maybe 4 or 5 days, depending on the size of our crew. We have to be careful because of the heat. You know, it gets extremely hot, and Utah's seeing a lot of climate change. It's getting much hotter and drier every year we're out here. A lot of the rivers and creeks that are normally have some water this time of year are already dry, and so we're really struggling. In fact, last night we had a forest fire behind me up in the mountains, a really big one. And so we're seeing increased fire frequency out here, lack of rain. It's getting even drier, and it being even hotter really early on, which is a challenge for the crew to stay safe because you're picking and shoveling in the heat all day, and that's kind of dangerous. So we have to pay particular attention to everyone's health and safety out here.
And I keep noticing, and you had mentioned it before too, that it looks like there's a lot of bugs flying around the camera, at least. They keep buzzing in and out of the screen. I hope those aren't bugging you too much.
Yeah, it's June is gnat season, but the last 2 years the gnats have been almost intolerable out here, and they're biting gnats, so they're out to get your blood. Of course, they love your eyes and your ears, and any sensitive place they can get. So we got our bug nets, and unfortunately, bug spray doesn't work on them. So that all sounds terrible, Chris. But this is a second home to me, and it's a glorious place to be. It's fun to be out here with the crew and get to know people. And the landscape is absolutely stunning, and we get some quiet time, some beautiful sunsets. We work hard, but we also have some peace and quiet out here too, and it's a wonderful place to be.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Are there any questions from anybody here in the Daily Planet Theater? Anything you want to know about paleontology? Right here on the front row, come up and join me. You can see Lindsay's right here. Wave hi. Tell us your name.
Aiden.
Hi, Aiden. What is your question for Dr. Zana?
Dr. Zana, what is your favorite dinosaur?
No, I don't really have a favorite dinosaur. I love all kinds of dinosaurs, and I'm always really excited about the newest dinosaur I'm working on. So whenever we find a new species, I'm sort of captivated by learning everything I can about that new species when I'm working on it. And then it gets a name and it's out there in the world, and you all can learn about it, and we move on to discovering and describing the next new dinosaur. What's great about this area is that all of the dinosaurs that have come from here have pretty much been new. So we've named a number of new dinosaurs from this area, and we've got several more that are going to be named soon, including one that's going to be named just next month. And I have a 3D reconstruction we made of its skull right here. So this is a new dinosaur from the Muscentugid that is going to come out in the news in the next few weeks. And it's a small plant-eating dinosaur, about the size of a big dog. And we think that this animal burrowed. And so we find its skeletons all over the Muscentugid here, sort of entrapped in these little 3-foot meter-sized square burrows where it would have lived underground, and then the burrow would have collapsed or something happened to bury it there. And so we're really excited about naming this new dinosaur and sharing it with all of you soon.
Very, very cool. So you said this is a 3D model of a dinosaur that you discovered out there?
Yeah. So I told you that finding dinosaurs hasn't changed much in the last century, but studying dinosaurs has changed a lot. And if you can go over to the Dueling Dinosaurs experience and see the new lab, you'll get to see some of the new tools and technologies that paleontologists use to study ancient life. Things like CT scanning that lets you reconstruct missing soft tissues like the ear or the brain of this dinosaur, or histology, where you can cut pieces of the dinosaur open and see the cells and the blood vessels and the growth rings and other things, and learn about how dinosaurs grew and when they reproduced and things like that. And so there's all kinds of new technologies paleontologists use to study dinosaurs and other ancient animals, and one of them is 3D surface scanning and printing. So when we find this dinosaur in the ground, just about a quarter mile from where I am, each one of these skull bones was found in a separate spot. We were able to scan each bone and then reconstruct what the original skull would have looked like and 3D print a model of it, which is something that 10, 15 years ago we never could have done. It's pretty exciting for us.
I think I saw one of those models upstairs, and I saw the skeleton of the dinosaur upstairs during the grand opening. I think it was there.
Yeah, that's right. We had this skeleton up inside the lab during the grand opening. Yep.
Very cool. Great questions. Thank you. But there were others. Yeah, come on up. So, tell us your name and then your question.
Okay, my name's Aiden.
And your question.
My question is, how many fossils have you discovered?
Oh, lots of fossils. Every year we discover new skeletons out here. We usually are digging on maybe 3 or 4 sites at a time. So those are all new skeletons or bone beds. Sometimes we have bone beds with lots of different skeletons all jumbled together. So
there's a second thing
so we have a lot of bones. Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
And there's another question that I'm actually starting to wonder. Where did you start your job?
Where did I start my job?
Yeah, what date?
What age?
Yeah, where can you
repeat that?
There's also a question from YouTube, Lindsay. If you could tell us, how long did you go to school to become a paleontologist? When did you get started in paleontology? When did you know that dinosaurs was going to be your calling?
Yeah, so the important thing about paleontology, about getting prepared to study paleontology, is to have a good breadth of the sciences, good background in a lot of different kinds of sciences. you can't really get a degree in paleontology, and no paleontologist is really just a paleontologist. We all have specialties that merge with other disciplines. So what you want to do is you want to get a really strong background in geology, because you have to understand the rocks and the environments your fossils are coming from. But you have to have a really strong background in ecology and biology, and sometimes chemistry and other microbiology even, so that you can understand the animals themselves. So paleontologists are really sort of have their feet in two worlds, the geologic sciences and the biologic sciences. So you have to be able to put all that together to understand. So I started out actually as a paleoanthropologist, so I was interested in studying human evolution, and I studied human fossils. And then I switched to dinosaurs when I was an undergrad, and I did a master's degree and a PhD in geology, and then a postdoc at the Field Museum. So that's about 7 or 8 years of graduate work on top of an undergrad degree, so it's about 10 or 11 years of college. So it takes a long time to become a paleontologist, but you're working on doing research for a lot of those years. You know, when you're a grad student, you're not just taking classes, you're doing research and you're writing papers. So you're really like a scientist in training to take over your own lab. So don't let the 11 years of college thing intimidate you. It's a lot of fun during a lot of those years.
That's a lot of years of college, but then you get to go camping in the desert and search for dinosaur fossils. Thank you very much. Great questions, Aiden. All right, more questions? Is there anybody upstairs that has questions? Yeah, we've got a microphone headed to you. Hey, Dr. Suzanne.
Just hold it away.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Steve here from the Badlands in South Dakota, so love the Badlands. Just wondering what maybe is like your most memorable experience, or maybe an experience that most vividly sticks out in your mind through all your travels in exotic and barren places.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't really have favorite experiences. I keep looking forward to the next big thing. A few years ago, we started working in the Gobi Desert. We have our third field season in the Gobi coming up in just a few weeks now. We'll be out there for 6 weeks. And each time we go out there, we sort of push into new areas and go to places where not many people have been before. And I really, really enjoy that part. I really enjoy exploring, where not many people have traveled before. This area that we're in, I have been working for 16 years. So it feels like a second home to me. So I love coming back here and spending some time here each summer. And I also really love going to new places like in the Gobi where there are new experiences and I don't really know what to expect.
Excellent question. All right, any others here online? Okay, yeah, let's go second row in the yellow shirt. Come on up. You could say hi. Tell us your name.
Blair,
Hi, Blair. Welcome to the museum. What is your question?
what's the biggest fossil you've found?
Well, the biggest fossils that we find are sauropod fossils, and I'm not a sauropod researcher. I've never described or worked on sauropods, but we have a sauropod not far, a couple miles from here, and we took pieces of the tail out, and it took a couple years just to get some pelvic bones and some tailbones out. And some of those jackets with just 6 or 7 pieces of the tail were, over 2,000 pounds. So they're really big animals that take like 10 years to dig up. So they're a really, really big commitment, and I really have a lot of respect for people who commit to working on sauropods. Most of the stuff we have in this area, the mustn't touch it, is much smaller. So it only takes us a few years or so to get it out of the ground.
You said it can take 10 years to dig up one of these long-necked vegetarian dinosaurs, just to get one dinosaur.
Yeah, it absolutely can.
Wow, that is
Yeah, and then that's just digging it up, right? Then you still have to clean all the rock from the bones and prepare it all before the scientists can study it. So Sauropods can take a really long time from discovery to naming for research.
Did you have another question? No. Blair, great question. That was an excellent question. Of course, that makes me think of like the giant sauropods, Lindsay, like the Patagotitan, the titanosaurs that are like 100 feet long, and how many years it must take to get one of those out of the ground.
Yeah, and the thing about sauropods, of course, is they're so big, it's hard to bury them, right? It takes a lot of sediment to cover up a 100-foot-long animal. And so usually when we find sauropod bones, we don't find entire skeletons. So they're often known from fragmentary skeletons. So it can take many, many years just to dig up a piece of a sauropod to be able to even work on it.
Cool stuff. Thank you, Blair. Great questions. All right, others in the room? I'm going to look up in the balconies. There's another one. Yeah, right here on the front row. Come on up. All right, what would you, tell us your name.
Kai.
It's nice to meet you. What would you like to know?
What's the smallest dinosaur you have ever discovered?
The smallest tyrannosaur or dinosaur, Chris?
Smallest dinosaur? Yeah, smallest dinosaur.
The smallest dinosaur. Well, I think the smallest dinosaur that I worked on was an animal called Talos that I named. It was a little troodontid dinosaur from the Caparowitz Formation. It was probably only about 6 or 7 feet long. That sounds long, but remember, a dinosaur like that is half tail. So its body's only maybe 3 feet long, and its tail's, another 3 feet long or so.
Did you have another question? All right, there you go. Smallest. Oh, you do have another question. What is your next question?
What do paleontologists discover?
What does a paleontologist discover? That's actually a very good question. Lindsay, what do paleontologists discover? We've talked about dinosaurs, but what else?
Yeah, well, of course, dinosaurs are just one little piece of what paleontologists do. Most paleontologists don't study dinosaurs. What paleontologists are trying to discover is the long, glorious history of our planet and life on it, and how that life has survived and changed over millions and millions and billions of years. So paleontologists study everything from microbes, like ancient evidence of bacteria, to algae, to little marine animals, to plants and pollen, invertebrates like clams, as well as all kinds of vertebrate animals, mammals and turtles, fish, and dinosaurs. And what we're trying to understand is how life changes and evolves on our planet and what our planet used to look like before humans were around.
Excellent question. Thank you for coming out today. Unless you've got more questions. Okay. Did I see another hand? Was there?
We got one up here, Chris.
Oh, you've got one on the second floor. Let's take it.
What does a triceratops eat?
What does a triceratops eat? A triceratops ate plants. Was an herbivore, and a big one, and it probably ate a lot all the time.
They just walked around looking for plants to eat, munching all day long. And then...
Yeah, have you ever seen cows or sheep out there just eating all day, every day? That's probably what a triceratops did.
So maybe the triceratops that is in the Dueling Dinosaurs exhibit was just out looking for some nice, tasty plants to eat, and then somehow wound up dead and next to a tyrannosaur. Is that a fair assessment, Dr. Zano?
It could be. You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, the science inside Dueling Dinosaurs is ongoing. Who knows what was going on? But if you do want to see parts of Triceratops, There is one in Dueling Dinosaurs. Okay, let's do a couple more questions. Do you have any up there, Matt? Let's do one from the second floor again.
Yes, I wanted to ask, how often do you go on expeditions like this, and how often do you discover something new in these expeditions?
All right, sounds like we lost Dr. Zano again. We'll try to get her back real quick. She said it's over 100 degrees in Utah right now, and cell phones don't like it when it's over 100 degrees outside. So we'll see if we can get Lindsay back. That might be it. We'll see. So, but let's think about this. Okay, so what was your question? I'm curious. If we can get Lindsay back, what did you want to ask her? Oh, like what types of dinosaurs does she like to find the most? Ooh, yeah, that's a very good question. Sometimes I feel like I know some of the answers to the paleontology questions, but I don't know which one she would like to find the most. Probably whichever one she's digging up right now. Whichever one is like actively under the shovel is probably her favorite ones to dig up. So Lindsay, we'll only keep you for a couple of more minutes because it looks like we're just going to keep getting, it's just getting hotter. The sun is getting
pretty toasty out here, Chris. Yeah, that's for sure.
So we had a question, your favorite type of dinosaur to find. If you're out looking for dinosaurs, what's the one that you know, maybe even just in the back of your mind, you're most excited to find?
Well, I'm a theropod worker. That's my love. I love theropod dinosaurs the most, and they're, you know, usually the rarest of dinosaurs. We find lots of plant eaters, but very few theropods. So when I find one, I get pretty excited about that.
So the theropods, the bipedal, upright walking, two-legged carnivores, mostly carnivores, like a T-Rex and its relatives. Excellent. Okay, what was the question from the second floor again? Let's try that one again.
A gentleman wanted to know how often do you go on expedition? And I forget the second part, sorry.
How often you go on expedition? And there was one from the internet. What's the most significant discovery you think you'd be able to make that's changed the way you've looked at dinosaurs doing these expeditions?
Well, we go out on expedition every year. It's an important part of what we do. We are trying to build the collections at the museum for future researchers, and so that there's lots of fossils for people to study. So we come to this area every year. We also work in New Mexico, and we work in Montana, and then of course we work in various places across Asia, in Thailand, Mongolia, and other places. So we spend about 3 or 4 months a year. No one person does 3 or 4 months. We change in and out with various teams, but in total we leave North Carolina in May, usually early May, and come back sometime in mid-September. And so it takes a lot of work and a lot of amazing people, most of whom are students and volunteers, to dig up the fossils that we dig up so that we can study them back at the museum. And the second question was about what the most important discovery is. And I think for me, one of the reasons we're out here is it's not to find new species, which is fun and exciting, but we're out in this area of Utah because the rocks that we're digging in come from a time on Earth known as the Cretaceous thermal maximum. So this is a super greenhouse time in the history of Earth. So it was a very, very hot climate. There was no, ice at the North and the South Pole. Sea level was about 500 feet higher than it is today. And global temperatures were really extreme, and the dinosaurs were struggling with those temperature changes. And so we're trying to learn from the dinosaurs how these ecosystems on our planet responded to that interval of extreme climate change. what dinosaurs survived, what the biology of the dinosaurs that survived was like versus the dinosaurs that went extinct, and hopefully can use some of that information to better understand how to protect our living animals that are on planet Earth today. And so I think for me that the most important thing is not finding and describing a new dinosaur, even though that's a lot of fun. It's using those dinosaurs as data to understand how past climate change has affected life and how we as humans can use that information to better protect our own future.
Very cool, thank you. All right, one more question for you, Dr. Zano.
Okay, hi, my name is Marie. I was just wondering about each year you go in the summertime to dig. Why is that you go at that time of the year? And the second is the land that you're on, is it permitted? Does the museum have a permit for a certain amount of time at these dig sites? Because obviously there are other museums, other, volunteers or people who want to be out there. So how does that kind of work behind the scenes?
Well, we're out here for two reasons in the summer. One is that the university's out, so the graduate students can be out, and I'm not teaching, so we're all free to be away from the university. The other issue is that this area is covered in snow from probably October through April. There was snow on the tops of the mountains when we got here in June, so we have to be here when there's no snow on the ground, and so that puts us squarely in the summer months, the hottest time of the year, which is not ideal, but that's the way that goes. And your second question was about the land that we're on. So we're working federal land. This is land managed by the Bureau of Land Management, which is a federal agency, and we're also on Utah state land. And so we have different permits that we have to apply for to work both federal and state lands. There's a lot of paperwork involved in that. And the issue of there being other paleontologists out here, well, there aren't as many of us as you might think. And there's a lot of cool places to hunt for dinosaurs. So we kind of respect each other's projects and we stay kind of in our own areas. We collaborate across different teams, but there aren't lots of paleontologists desperate to get into the mustn't touch it. We're kind of the crew that's working up this one ecosystem. So not that many of us to make it a competitive field. We're all pretty happy and cooperative working together.
That is fantastic to hear. So Lindsay, we'll let you go. What's the rest of your day look like?
Well, we sent crews to town for water and ice and food, and we've got some new arrivals coming in. It's a camp switch-out day, so we had people who were here for 2 weeks are leaving, and we've got new people coming in from the airport today and bringing food and other things with them. And I'm going to head down to the quarry and hopefully dig up more of that juvenile Eolambia, so we're pretty excited about it.
Very excited. For folks who are watching, I'll let you know that you can follow along with Dr. Zano on social media at Expedition Live, I think is the social media handles. Is that right, Lindsay?
That's right, yep.
At Expedition Live, where there's often pictures and updates and sometimes videos of what's happening in the field. And then we will be chatting with more of the paleontology team again next week, on Saturday of next week, at noon here in the Daily Planet Theater and on the museum's YouTube channel. We'll be connecting with paleontologists. Again, I think we'll be talking to Dr. Zano again, so we'll get another update in a little over 7 days, see how that Eolambia is coming along.
Awesome. Great to talk to you all.
Thank you, Dr. Zano. Go cool down out there.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Will do. Talk to you next week.
And everybody, thanks for coming out to the museum and thanks for tuning in online. Make sure that you head to naturalsciences.org to get more information about programs, activities, and events coming out of the museum, just like this one, across all of the different science and nature stuff that we do here at the museum. Thanks for participating. Have a great Friday, everybody. Bye.